The topic for today's podcast is about asking questions. Now, for many of my listeners, you will have your own children, and if they're anything like mine, they will ask you 101 questions a minute, it seems, some of the time. And what I wanted to talk about this, or why I wanted to talk about this topic was, I find that as we grow older and as we become adults, and particularly when we're in business, we seem to ask less questions. And one of the pieces of feedback I get from potential clients and new clients that work with me was that, I just didn't know how to ask the question. And what happens as a result of not asking the questions or asking the wrong questions is that you end up in a situation, potentially in your business, particularly in the financial side of things, where it's not looking pretty. And it's usually a direct result of not knowing the questions to ask and then not asking the questions. Now, firstly, I want to say you are not alone in this. I reckon 95% of the people I talk to over the course of my week would mention something about not sure what to ask, didn't know who to ask, asked it once, but got a response that I wasn't sure of, so I didn't ask again. And I really, really, really want to highlight the importance of asking questions. Now, this is something, it's my one golden rule in my business is that my clients, when they come on board, one of the requirements of them that I ask, and in fact insist, is that they ask questions. I joke with my clients, if you have to think about an answer for more than 3 minutes, then you need to reach out to me and ask the question. Now, not like our children, how they just constantly ask the same question, but hey, Katie, this is my question, and I've thought, could it be this or that? Or I think it might be this, but I'm not really sure of another solution. So I want you to be able to ask a question of me at any time when you're not feeling very confident in the answer, and come to me with the answer that you think might be best, 1 or 2 solutions, and then we can work on it from there. Now, the reason why I decided to do this podcast is because I had an email from a client on Friday. She's a new client to us, and she'd asked me a question. I had answered it, then she'd asked me another question and I had answered that. And they were pretty basic questions, nothing out of the ordinary for me. But then her reply to that second answer was, oh my gosh, you've taken such a weight off my shoulders. Now I don't have to be anxious over the weekend thinking about this. And it just reminded me that not everyone insists on asking questions of their clients. And I really, really want to highlight and give you some pointers to help you ask better questions so you can get better answers, so that you can educate yourself and so that you can make improvements in your business. Because we all know if we keep doing what we've done, we're going to get the same results. And to do something different and to get a different result, we need to ask questions. So I often hear, I was too afraid to ask. I felt like an idiot when I asked because I had already asked that question last year. I don't know what to ask. I feel dumb, stupid, worried, anxious, like an idiot if I ask questions. What I would love for you to feel, though, is that you feel comfortable asking questions, whether that be of your bookkeeper, your accountant, your business coach, your financial planner, your mortgage broker, whoever it is, your suppliers, your clients, your subbies, whoever it is. I really, really want you to start thinking about, what do you need to do to start asking questions to make your life easier. I want you to be able to happily ask questions, even if you've already asked that question before. If you haven't quite got the answer, you haven't quite grasped what you need to, then I want you to be able to ask another question again and be comfortable in doing that. And finally, I want you to know what to ask, or at least what that first question is to ask to get you started. So I want to cover off 3 points today in this podcast. Firstly, make sure you're asking the right person, but if you're not sure if that's the right person, don't not ask. Ask them anyway and just say, hey, I'm not sure if you're the right person to ask this question. Here's my question. They'll quickly tell you whether it's a them question or not. If it's a no, all you need to say to them is, hey, do you know who I could ask this question of to get the answer? and just again getting into that conversation with them. And you'll find people are really helpful when you ask the question. Now, if they're not helpful, then probably not somebody that you need to be worried too much about. And probably if they're, on your financial team, particularly if they're an accountant or a bookkeeper, maybe time to move on. The second thing, again, leading on from that financial team, I talk about this all the time. And if you've listened to a number of my other podcasts, you'll hear me talk on and on and on and on about your financial team and building your financial team, your accountant, your bookkeeper, your business coach, if you have one, working with a Profit First professional like myself, and building that team so we are all on your side, that we are helping you achieve your goals. But you have to be comfortable in asking questions of that financial team, because otherwise you're not going to get the results you need. They're going to be much slower and you may end up completely off track. So you need to find and build your financial team who you are absolutely 100% comfortable in asking them questions. Now, if my clients ask me a question, they have a 48-hour business hours turnaround time that we make sure that we let them know. Now, 98% of the time we respond in a much quicker fashion, but for me, more than 2 business days is not acceptable. In fact, I try to keep myself accountable to within 1 business day. Sometimes things happen, but to be communicating with your clients all the time. So if you have an accountant, a bookkeeper, a business coach, Profit First coach, anyone who you're working with, and they're not communicating on a quick enough level for you, then please reach out to them and communicate to them that, hey, this isn't quite working. I really need it to be done like this. Now, they'll either say, yep, we can do that, no worries, sorry, didn't realize you needed those things in such quick time frame, or they'll say, no, we can't do that. If it's a no, move on, find somebody else. And the third thing I really, really want to highlight here is don't be afraid to ask again. Now, with this one, obviously, if you ask the question and then you ignore the answer and then you ask the question again, the person who you're talking to is probably going to get a little bit cranky about that. So please make sure that when we're asking questions, that we listen to the response and really determine whether they've answered our question or whether they've not answered our question, or have we not asked the question properly? And again, don't be afraid to communicate to them, hey, actually, I don't think I asked the question right. This is what I need. Can you help me with that? And don't be afraid to ask the question multiple times. And sometimes they may not be the person to help you. So as I mentioned, reach out to them and say, hey, if this is not a you question, do you know who I could speak to for this? I constantly am putting my clients in touch with accountants and business coaches and mortgage brokers and insurance brokers and so on, just to give them a starting point to reach out and to be able to them ask those questions of those providers. What I always say to my clients is these are the people that I have used myself. It doesn't make them a great fit for you, but have a conversation with them, ask your questions and see how you go. At worst, you'll get a little bit more information and you'll be able to then ask better questions of the next person that you're talking to. So just to recap, 3 things that we need to do. Ask the right person the right question, but don't be afraid to ask the person who you think might be the right person the question to start with. The second thing, build and find your financial team and make sure that is filled with advisors who are happy to answer your questions, and make sure that you are comfortable in asking them and make sure that you get your responses in a reasonable time frame. And again, if you're not getting that at the moment, my recommendation is always to go back to those those on your financial team, and communicate with them that it isn't quite working for you at the moment. And the third thing, as I said, don't be afraid to ask questions, but make sure that you are listening to the responses and then taking that as feedback, how you could improve asking your questions. Again, as I said, this is such a really simple, basic one that I took for granted, that I thought everybody asked their bookkeepers and their coaches and their accountants questions, and happily and freely asked questions. But from the feedback I've been getting from my clients, particularly this year, that's not something that so many people feel comfortable in doing, hence why I wanted to do this podcast. So if that is you, as I said, first step, go back to them and say, hey, this is what isn't working for me. Can we fix that? If that isn't the case and they can't fix it, then maybe time to, finally look for that new accountant, look for that new bookkeeper, finally get a Profit First coach who's going to be able to help you implement Profit First, whoever it may be. It may be suppliers, it may be employees, whoever it may be. It's time to start asking the questions and moving your business forward, because we all know we don't want to be in the same position we are, or worse, this time next year. We want to improve it. And I truly, truly believe when you start to really ask good questions of everyone in your business world, then life becomes so much easier. So on that note, if you have any questions around Profit First, bookkeeping, my other business is Efficient Tradie Bookkeeping, so happy to answer those. If you have accountant questions, I obviously can't answer those because I'm not a tax accountant. But if you're not happy with your accountant, and you've gone back to them and you've tried to make that a better relationship and it's still not working, feel free to reach out to me. As I said, I'm happy to put you in touch with my accountant to have a chat. Have those conversations, ask those questions, and you're going to be able to build and move your business forward much, much faster than you ever have before.